So I do not know what's going on in the ATP. I just don't have the bandwidth. So, wish them luck.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, hi, everyone.
My name is Jonathan.
I'm James.
This is The Body Serve, and we are feeling accomplished. We just put together a piece of furniture that was quite arduous.
It took about 2 hours. It wasn't difficult. It was just time-consuming.
And at our current age and state of life.
State of physical well-being. You might have noticed that our music is gone.
Our little jingle.
It
was not ours.
Well, therein lies the problem.
Well, when we started this whole thing, we researched royalty-free music. And as far as I can tell, it is still royalty-free. We may just not have been crediting correctly, or maybe we're just being dinged unlawfully. It's an unlawful seizure.
We caught a case. Some of our episodes are not on Spotify currently. We had no intention to ever misuse someone's copyright or intellectual property, but some of the episodes were removed. Found out it was because of the music. Mm-hmm. So we're currently investigating a long-term solution.
Yeah. Do you remember we had a listener reach out to say, new listener, love the show. I've been going back and listening to every episode. However, I couldn't find so and so and so. And it was Spotify too at that point.
Yeah, but it's actually unrelated.
Oh,
so,
it is?
I've noticed that any of our episodes pre-2017, you cannot find on a number of the services. And I don't know if that's just because they only go back a certain number of years. But our full catalog is on our Podbean website, which I always link like on our tweets and Instagram and everything. So it is available.
So if you are looking for back episodes, BodyServe, podbean.com/thebody. No, it's thebodyserve. The BodyServe first, and then Podbean. Just Google it.
That was so helpful.
That was terrible.
Wow.
Wow. I trust you all are internet savvy enough to find the Podbean link. Other housekeeping news. Postcards are here. Bookmarks are here. The printing is done. We're happy with it.
And soon it will be there.
Correct.
With you.
We're almost at the 2-month date of having moved. And after this week, I think we will finally feel like we're good. We're there. Don't you think?
Yeah. I know the postcards are out much later than they normally are, but trust me, we're on it.
I also want to say that I thought that my performance in the last episode was total shite. I also didn't love the last episode, so I'm
so glad you said it, not me.
So I'm hoping
I've been living with that.
To bring something more to this episode.
Oh, okay. No, I think you are. It was just a tough one to record.
Yeah.
So I don't think it actually came off that badly. It was just, it felt like sort of torture to get through, but.
And by saying all that, I mean I did not enjoy it at all. Not one part of the recording process or editing. Well, I didn't even edit it, so that was one plus.
That's just some inside baseball, It's not always sunshine.
Yeah, I mean, the episodes that we really, really enjoy, a lot of times folks don't connect with them. There's no engagement.
Yeah, and then the opposite is often true.
And then the banalysis gets all of the all of the play.
You wanted to name the last episode that, and I was like, the power of suggestion is just a little too high. I don't want people to connect that with us.
Well, it kind of fit.
Do you know that I used to think that word was pronounced banal?
Banal?
Rhyming with...
Yeah, you had something else
sense,
on
right?
your mind.
Wow.
Clearly.
Not then.
Carlos Alcaraz, picking up where we left off, won Monte Carlo, returned to world number 2, It was a 1 week stay.
Oh, somehow I missed that.
Yeah.
It was?
It was 1 week stay because come Monday, that guy will be back at number 2.
He won Munich.
I found it strange engaging with this return to number 2 and then seeing how far behind Sinner Alcaraz still is in the rankings. I found it so strange that given that he won the French Open and Wimbledon back-to-back last year, that this gap is still so wide and that he's still floundering at number 3 come Monday.
Yeah, the Monte Carlo win was a really good sign. The run to the final this week in Barcelona, another great sign that things are starting to come together for him a little bit, pending, of course, whatever injury he picked up in Barcelona. But yeah, 4,000 points from 2 slams is doing a lot of work on his ranking.
He gets to Barcelona and then he runs into the Renaissance.
We did not coin that. I have seen it elsewhere on Reddit and stuff, but the Runeaissance is such a great name.
Will not be the title of this episode.
No. It will be Holger related, though. Holger beat Carlos 7-6, 6-2 in this final. Carlos saw the trainer in the second set, did not win another game after that. I think I read in Spanish press he's going to get an MRI. There might be like an adductor injury or something.
Not the adductor.
Is that
Rafa went through that.
Who knows? I mean, Carlos is young. You know, he was also injured going into Roland Garros last year. But if he has an injury that seriously inhibits his movement, that's kind of another thing.
Do you remember when we were wondering out loud on this show if Holger would ever really fulfill the promise that saw him rise to number 4 in the world? That maybe that was all a mirage. That maybe he wasn't as good a talent as we were made to believe. And part of why that discussion was taking place was, prior to today, it had been 2 years since he'd won a title. This is still a young fella, right?
Yeah.
And for it to have been a 2-year drought, that felt like a long time.
Yeah, he last won in Munich in 2023. The tournament he's won twice, actually, beating Botic twice. And yeah, of course, a lot of people were sort of losing faith that Holger would kind of make it to that top tier of tennis. And it's still, of course, it remains to be seen, but he's only 21 years old, right? I always say this with Carlos and with Jannik and with all these guys. There's so much time to either exceed or fulfill your potential or just not.
Remember, Holger also reached the Indian Wells final this year. So these 2 tournaments, Indian Wells and Barcelona, are bookending 3 straight losses.
Right.
So it's not a festival of consistency, but he's getting big results.
But he is somebody who is well motivated by spite and pettiness, which I can't help but admire, right?
You can definitely relate to that.
He loves proving people wrong. He went into the match against Casper Ruud with a horrible record. And these 2 Scandinavian guys are somehow like linked in the stars because of Gate and all these other things.
That feels like eons ago.
Right.
Gate?
Uh-huh.
There's so many things that happen in tennis that we've talked about over the last 10 plus years that come up periodically and they feel like they never happened. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh wow, that was a thing that happened and I totally forgot about it. I have the memory of a fish when it comes to all these things. There's an episode that I've always dreamt of doing, like a top to bottom over the years tennis mess episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I would need serious help. We'd have to solicit from the listeners because it would be completely incomplete if I went on my own doing.
Well, it would be like you were relearning all of these things. How exciting, I've always wanted to rewatch Friday Night Lights, like watch it for the first time. How cool would it be to rewatch all the tennis mess as if you'd never seen it?
To watch Spurlea bump Venus for the very first time?
Right. To watch Martina Hingis cross the net and have a complete meltdown in her French Open final?
You weren't even watching tennis back then.
Well, that's true. I actually tuned in like right after that. Winning Monte Carlo and Barcelona back-to-back is really difficult. I should say that Rafa did it 10 times. but that's different. For everybody else, it's really difficult. Even though, they're both Mediterranean, they happen close together, they're on the same surface. It hasn't been done a ton of times outside of Rafa.
Oh, I don't like where this is going. I see you have a question for me?
Yeah. It's a bit of a quiz.
Oh.
So I mentioned Rafa did the double 10 times in his career. And it was done 5 other times in the Open era by 4 different men. So my quiz is...
So one guy did it twice.
Yes. Can you name the men who have done it in the Open era?
Borg.
Yes.
Did he do it twice?
No.
Mooster.
Yes.
Did he do it twice?
Yes.
Whew. Got that out of the way. So, that's 40%. Plus, I got the double, so maybe 45%. You're not getting any extra credit here.
Technically, that's 60%, but I still need all 4.
No, I'm saying the double one isn't like a full point. So I need 3 more? Or 2 more? I need 2 more.
No, just 2.
I need 2 more. In the Open era. Vilas?
No.
Bruguera?
No.
Damn. Djokovic?
No.
Well, damn. What about the little man? Correcha?
No.
Oh.
The little man?
I just picture him as a little man. Is this somebody from the Big 3 era?
Well, no. No, because Rafa
so we're going...
basically made it impossible.
Well, somebody who played in that era.
No, think older than Correcha.
Okay, so we're going back. Let's do Jim Courier.
No.
But he won the French Open twice. What was he doing?
I don't know.
Edberg?
No.
I'm looking very bad right now.
I feel like one should jump out just because you could say he's like among the greats, and one is a little less obvious.
Is it the winner of the French Open in the early 1980s, Jannik Noah?
No. But yeah, a French in the 80s.
A French in the 80s? Oh, they won a French in the 80s.
Not a French person.
They won a French Open in the 80s. Wielander?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who's the other
one? The last one I'm going to give you, because you won't even want to guess it. Nastase.
Oh.
I was actually surprised by the people who didn't do it. Like Vilas, like you mentioned.
Or Courier.
Mm-hmm. Mooster, that was a gimme, right? Because Mooster was dominating clay for like just a few years, a brief period in the 90s. I gave you that quiz just to underline that this isn't something that happens often. There were people who were saying Carlos was about to be untouchable on clay, that he could run the table. This is incredibly difficult. It's something that Rafa really didn't even do after the late 2000s. To win all of the clay tournaments up to Roland Garros.
To do it one time is a lot.
It's extraordinary.
To do it as many times as he did. Let's be real here. That is wild.
I'm just saying, other people aren't going to. And that's fine.
I just didn't like the way that was going for a second there, and I had to come and bring it back a little bit.
Sure. I mentioned Ruud versus Rune. Casper had a 6-1 head-to-head against Holger going into this match. Loses in straight sets. What the hell is going on with Casper?
He's down to around number 15 in the rankings.
Yeah.
He leaves the top 10. Holger returns to the top 10 at number 9. And this is worrying if you're a Casper fan.
Yep.
Because this is a good spot of the season for him.
He was defending champion, beating last year's Monte Carlo winner, Tsitsipas, in the final. Fils had another great tournament, into a semifinal. It's now his 4th straight tournament with a quarterfinal or better.
Tsitsipas and his parents?
Oh, I forgot to write that down, but okay, so we know that he's in talks with Goran Ivanisevic for a possible coaching partnership, but that Stefanos wasn't able to comment on the record yet.
Mm-hmm.
So this week, he said he needs to get his parents out of here. Basically, he's trying to keep his parents away so he can negotiate and have a career on his own.
He said, "In recent days, my parents have been trying to force their way back into my life, and I have to stop them. I have to stop them."
For emphasis, yeah.
With an exclamation mark.
Oh,
this is mess.
This
is messy.
I mean, I have to give him credit. Clearly, this has been very difficult to distance yourself from your parents. And he is really putting in the... He really seems to be trying.
We ate dinner across from Stefanos when he had his first big result. Do you remember? We were in Cincinnati.
Wasn't it right after he had reached the Toronto final?
Or was it Montreal? One of the two.
Yeah. And we were in Cincinnati like the day that match happened.
Yeah. So he had reached the final in Canada. And a couple days later, he's sitting a few feet away from us with his dad.
At Bricks.
At Bricks in Mason, Ohio. Little did we know what would unfold over the next few years.
He has lived a whole life since then.
It's been like 8 years.
Yeah. All right, so the women are in Stuttgart this week. It is still going on. They did not play on Good Friday. I was so confused. There were no matches on the schedule on Friday. I'm like, what is going on?
You are not the only one.
Right.
A lot of people were confused.
Because they played on Easter Sunday, which is also the highest of the holidays in Catholicism, if you're a Christian.
Right, but which do you elevate
as
the Easter day, you know?
Maybe, I don't know how they treat Good Friday in Germany. I mean, it's a very solemn day for Christians, so maybe that's why they're not playing. There will be
there's a local ordinance.
Oh, okay.
I thought you had seen that.
No, there's
an actual local ordinance that says these things can't happen on Good Friday.
I guess we never noticed because Easter bounces around the calendar, so...
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
I didn't know this, I saw this.
Right. They will be playing a Monday final, which is not a huge deal because Madrid, the seeds won't be playing until Friday at the earliest.
Stuttgart is always this big hitter's paradise. Mm-hmm. This spot on the clay calendar where folks who may not necessarily have the best time on clay generally get to shine. It's indoors. Petra has won there. Maria won there many, many times.
She has several Porsches in her garage.
This is also a tournament that Arena had made the final 3 previous times. Unfortunately, she had run into Iga or Ash Barty during those appearances. 4th time, she now gets to face Ms. Ostapenko.
Yelena is in her first clay final since she won her one and only clay title, Roland Garros, in 2017. Her first final since then as well. She had the good fortune of running into her pigeon, Iga Swiatek.
Oh, we're saying that now?
I mean, is that like a derogatory thing?
When Rafa is beating a Gasquet double digits times in a row, it doesn't carry the same heft or frottedness as when Ostapenko is beating a 5-time slam champion and one of the very best players of this era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's different.
No, it's truly
stunning. Remarkable.
And Ostapenko has not even had that great of a year in singles. But she always gets up for this match in the same way that Serena always got up for Maria matches. There has got to be... I mean, obviously it's a great matchup for Yelena, just game-wise. Her flat hitting gives Iga a lot of trouble. And Iga... I mean, she hasn't really worked a lot on her varieties since she reached the top because she hasn't really had to. I think she's not facing this matchup the way she should.
I think the issue here is that she doesn't have much time
to
do much.
But there's no reason that she cannot beat Ostapenko once.
Agreed.
You know?
It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Maybe it'll end up being a 4-10 head-to-head.
Right.
You know? It's just that... This comes yet again after a long stretch of results where she isn't ultimately winning these tournaments. This is a period where we're seeing her not be Iga, frankly.
Yeah, and her Madrid draw just came out. It's really difficult against players like Noskova. Ostapenko, I think, is her potential quarterfinal opponent.
Not Noskova again.
Yeah, just not the people she's going to want to see. But Iga could also run the table for the rest of the clay season, right? That's not out of the question. The quarterfinal lineup in Stuttgart was pretty stunning. This tournament, I just told you a little while ago, profile's kind of like a 1000, right? It's a 500, but it gets a really, really good draw. Players love playing here. There's obviously the draw of winning a Porsche, but apparently they love the tournament. And it has gained a level of prestige that's further than a 500 level, in my opinion. In my opinion, I'd rather win Stuttgart versus Madrid.
Okay.
To me, it's more important. On paper, it's not, obviously.
And why is that?
Because Madrid has no history. To me, it doesn't have the prestige of a 1000. They don't care about women athletes at all. And I think the conditions are so different. Well, that's not a good argument because Stuttgart's indoors. Anyway, I'll stop there.
I was giving you the chance to...
Oh, I don't like Madrid. I think
there you go.
If
That's all it is.
As you know, if I had my choice, it would be removed from the calendar completely.
The semis ended up being Sabalenka beating Paolini and Ostapenko beating Alexandrova. To get there, you may say, well, what happened to Coco Gauff?
Paolini did, I guess.
In straight sets.
Yeah. Sabalenka Mertens, Arena disagreed with a call, and on a changeover, she took out her phone, walked over to the mark, and took a photo for posterity, for evidence. This was after the umpire refused to check the mark for a second time. For clarity, she had checked the mark once, but she refused to do it again. Then, after the match, Arena said the umpire, Miriam Blay, gave her a, quote, very interesting look and a very strong handshake. Man, this is so messy. This is so funny to me. She thinks like the umpire was giving her a strong handshake to intimidate her or get back at her. It's too funny.
This was messy in the wrong kind of way, I feel. It's not a cute moment.
So stupid, though.
It's not a cute moment. Nothing will be changed from this.
No, but images of a player with their phone out taking a picture of the court is like too good to pass up. It's so funny. Because it's so petty and so dumb.
Yeah.
I can see you're not amused.
I'm not amused by it at all. I don't find her behavior generally amusing. Mm-hmm. I think maybe I am biased at this point.
Yeah. We don't need no hateration, holleration in this dancery. During that guy's 3+ hour match against Griekspoor in Munich, someone yelled out in German, quote, "Let's go, you fucking wife beater." Sorry, I should have added a content warning. That's not a very nice word. Not the F word, the other one.
Yeah.
So now German fans are very aware of what's happening, and at least one spectator wasn't afraid to say how he felt about Zverev.
I just had a jump scare.
Oh my god. You'll recall that Munich is where that guy said this is his fucking court. And on his fucking court, somebody just screamed out that he was an abuser of women.
Mm-hmm. And he tried to have them removed.
Yeah.
It's like, hello, Mr. Umpire, can you, deal with that, please? I'm just happy this is still happening. To him.
Yeah, they're just not letting him breathe. Because the organizations have done nothing, of course.
As far as the structure of tennis is concerned, and a plurality of its fans, this is a moot issue. Well, the court said, well, nothing was proven, well, don't you know that, well, the full gamut.
Yeah.
It's over, it's done. But there are a few good soldiers still fighting the battle.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even know if this is the right tactic, right? Is it a little flippant for somebody who is a survivor of abuse? Is that something they want to hear? But the fact that this is still top of mind and people are still talking about it, I think is important. The great thing about being a fan is that nobody can force me to like this guy. I am allowed to dislike him for any reason that I choose.
Yeah.
That's freedom. And even though I have a podcast, it doesn't mean I have to talk about his successes. What
are you getting at there?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like we're kind of swimming upstream. The ATP features him constantly on their little on their social packages and stuff. We don't have to do that.
No, but we do talk about him quite a bit just to revel in his misery.
It's correct.
Yeah.
Also our prerogative.
But that's also keeping him in the news,
okay.
I guess.
Fair enough.
In a way. We've had people in the past say, well, it was mostly new listeners saying, oh, why do you think he's going through this rough spell? What do you think technically? Well, first of all, there is barely any technical analysis on this show. So if this is what you're looking for, I am so sorry.
We're the wrong
people for it. And also, there's just no chance in hell that we would engage with that guy in that way.
Right.
At all.
we're not really watching his matches.
No.
Anyway, the final was that guy versus Ben Shelton. This final was not exactly a favorite among tennis Twitter and tennis Reddit. They really do not like either of these guys.
Shelton has caught so many cases in the last year. So many red-tinged, red-pilled, red-hatted cases in the last year.
Still, certainly the lesser of two evils in this situation, right? It's clear who you should be rooting for in the matchup. But,
well, you just don't have to root for anybody. You can just watch as the ship sinks.
There was this stat going around that Ben was the first American man to reach a clay final higher than 250 level since Andre Agassi in 2002.
Which, pathetic.
Yes.
If true.
Mm-hmm.
I saw somebody saying that this has to do with the reclassifications of tournaments and this wasn't actually a true stat or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, I mean, A, I didn't look into it further, but also B, even if so, that's still not a great stat.
Right.
Diego Derura Palomero became the first ATP player born in when?
2008.
The year we got Vince.
We were full-grown, tax-paying adults.
In grad school. The first ATP player born in 2008 to win a main draw match, beating Denis Shapovalov via retirement in Munich.
So you may have seen this video going around. He's the kid who drew a cross in the clay and then laid down in it. Happy Easter, guys. I mean, it's appropriate for the season.
It is. Litigation.
Yep. You know I love tennis business, so we got a few things to cover here. The PTPA lawsuit had its first hearing in Manhattan courtroom. This is Southern District, New York.
SDNY was very busy this week.
Very busy. Like, they don't have their hands full with other things in the Southern District. They got to deal with 2 tennis lawsuits. To have a hearing this quickly after the lawsuit was filed is unusual. Daniel Kaplan from Front Office Sports, and he's been writing about the business of sports for many years.
He's the sports business person.
Yes.
Has been, will be.
I guarantee if you're interested in this stuff, you've come across his reporting.
And he also just started a Substack, so if you want to keep abreast of all this stuff, that's where you go.
So he spoke with Ben Rothenberg on Ben's newsletter Bounces this week, and also wrote some things for Front Office Sports and his own newsletter. And the gist of it is that the PTPA was alleging that the ATP is coercing players to, quote, rebuke the lawsuit. And this is what caused the hearing to come up so quickly, because they wanted to stop it right away.
Star witness.
Riley Opelka was one of the witnesses. But rewinding, if it is true, right, if these allegations are true, these are obvious union-busting tactics from the ATP. Even if
the PTPA is not a union.
Right.
And if it's unclear whether the PTPA actually represents the players.
Right.
It's a position that they've taken upon themselves and have told us that they do, but we don't know. We don't know how many players they represent.
And we also don't know how this is viewed by the courts, if they view the PTPA as the representative of players.
Opelka testified that Chairman Andrea Gaudenzi sent a, quote, unnamed player to warn Opelka that if he didn't remove his name from the lawsuit, he'd lose his pension and be buried in millions of legal fees. Opelka said that a member of the ATP Player Council approached him in the Miami Open gym to deliver the message. The PTPA believes that this underlines their point that players are scared of retribution, and that's why they're failing to get a lot of names on the record. Makes sense and also convenient.
Right. This hearing, the point of it was for the PTPA to file a motion to stop the ATP from discussing the lawsuit with players. They believe that the ATP is leaning on players to be silent about it and even to remove their names if they're a plaintiff. Now, the ATP believes that Riley's story is false. In fact, this just broke today on Daniel Kaplan's newsletter. The ATP outside counsel, Brad Rushkin, wrote a letter to the court. This was a requirement following the hearing. Both sides had to write a letter to the court. And he said, quote, Mr. Opelka's repetition of mistruths highlights the problem with secondhand information from an unidentified source. And the letter casts doubt on why Opelka had to testify remote. He was in Barcelona to play, but they said, well, the hearing was April 11th. You didn't have to play till April 14th.
How to call somebody a liar without calling them a liar? Mistruths.
Like, and I get, this wasn't a trial, right? But you want to impeach the witness. You want to call into question his credibility. And just from an outside perspective here, Riley Opelka, as your witness, as somebody who is so reckless of mouth, and I can relate, right? I'm reckless too. But this witness is so easy to impeach because he just says things. He just speaks his mind.
I guess it has a lot to do with...
Right, he is somebody who just says inflammatory things a lot of the time. And a lot of time, I don't know if he's serious or not, but this is just part of his personality. Why would you pick him?
Well, allegedly it happened to him.
Right.
And but he was willing to speak about it.
But he won't say who it was. And he's saying this unnamed person was sent by Gaudenzi to come coerce and harass me. So that's like a lot of layers there. There's degrees of separation.
We come to find out that ATP board member Luben Pampolov admitted that he asked players on March 18th to sign a statement disavowing the lawsuit. Of course, this stopped when the PTPA filed a gag motion. And Ben Shelton is the only player they've named who signed it.
Yeah, I don't know if he was the only player they managed to get on the record, or he's the only one they're willing to name. But he says these actions stopped after like a day. But the ATP did admit that they were trying to rally support for their side.
The ATP Council criticized the PTPA for appointing itself the representative for all players. Meanwhile, the PTPA continues to say that, but they don't have evidence for it. We talked about this. Oh, we've got the support of however many 100 players, but who are they? Where's your roll call? Where's your member list?
At some point, a court may rule that, yeah, you are the bargaining unit for players, or you're the representative for players. I think that's a really, really steep hill to climb legally, but a judge might find them sympathetic.
The question remains, how much actual support does the PTPA have from players?
That's unknown, right?
We learned this. Ben Rothenberg asked these players in Charleston on the women's side, have you been contacted by the PTPA? And 6 for 6 said no.
Mm-hmm. Alcaraz said that Pospisil did not contact him. Vashek said, no, you're right, I didn't. Carlos is young, I didn't want to bother him. And he since contacted him about the lawsuit.
Meanwhile, we don't know what's going on with Djokovic in all of this. Pospisil has said that he was surprised by Djokovic's comments distancing himself from the lawsuit, saying, quote, it was not in line with our previous conversations. We talked about this on previous episodes, whereby Djokovic was like, well, in theory, I guess I agree with all this stuff, but I think it maybe went a bit too far.
And it turns out, it sounds like his colleagues on the PTPA were really surprised by his public comments. They were caught off guard. So, I mean, this can work in several ways, right? Kaplan said that they have gotten lucky. The PTPA has gotten lucky because the judge might be sympathetic to their cause based on previous rulings. Obviously, this is outside of our expertise, but Kaplan expects the judge might actually render a decision that benefits the PTPA, at least in this first hearing. But the top players not being a part of it, does that help them or hurt them? The top players wrote a letter to the Slams that was a very decidedly not part of the PTPA's action. Are they sending a message that, we don't know what's going on with this lawsuit. Anyway, here's our demands to the Slams.
With actual names behind it.
Right.
The majority. Not even a plurality. Not even a majority. Basically every damn top 10 player from the men and women's side.
Right.
That's
save one.
A whole different level of heft than what the PTPA is bringing to this table.
So there is a long, long way to go in this. You know, the hearings are not going to come this rapidly going forward. This was kind of an emergency. Will this get to a jury? Probably not. Will this force members to the table to hash out, what comes next? Probably. But what does come next? We asked in our previous episode about this, what does the PTPA want tennis to look like? And do they want courts or a jury to be involved in planning what tennis looks like?
I can tell you what comes next on this episode. A whole lot of mess. Mess.
Oh, man.
Ms. Harriet Dart. This is something we have not seen in our lifetimes. As podcasters, as fans of the sport, it is a truly unique moment.
It is. This would go on our episode of Tennis Mess, a retrospective.
While playing her match against Lois Boisson, Harriet Dart petitioned the umpire after a changeover to compel Boisson to put on deodorant because she stunk to high heaven, allegedly.
Can you read the quote?
Quote, "Can you tell her to wear deodorant because she smells really bad?"
That is so rude. Like, that is so beyond rude. Also, you're not, this isn't like pairs figure skating. You know what I mean? Like, you're not on top of each other. You can smell her baseline to baseline. Is that what you're saying?
That's crazy. That is a level of stench that has never been seen or smelled before.
Never.
The stench smelled around the world. That's what that would be.
Right.
This is not a case of Serena asking for espresso on a changeover. There is no deodorant to be brought.
Well, I mean, there probably is, if a player wanted it.
But there is a couple other steps now that have to be overcome.
Yeah.
It's not readily on hand.
You're also presupposing that Harriet is telling the truth.
I do not presume. I think this very much falls in the petty, dark-sided category of human behavior.
Yes, it is so nasty. Harriet apologized after and said, that's not me. Boisson had a lot of fun with it. She posted on Instagram a photo of her with a little picture of Dove deodorant photoshopped right into it and captioned it, "At Dove apparently needed a collab. Get that Dove money, girl."
Dove France, it's coming. It's happening.
Serena's comments in her Time magazine interview. She was voted, I don't know how they do it, but she was featured as one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine.
Mm-hmm. I saw a video of her today, and I honestly didn't watch the whole thing. I watched maybe 3 seconds of it. The start of it and the premise of it was, a lot of people don't know this about me. And it was giving Mariah talking about being a songwriter.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Ma'am,
Yes.
We know you're a songwriter. We know. There's nothing in this business setting that you're trying to tell us a lot of people don't, that we don't. We know. I'm sorry. Moving on. I'm not partaking.
Yeah. And these lists are PR, right? But the point that jumped out to tennis fans is her commenting on Jannik Sinner's suspension.
She said, quote, "Men's tennis needs him. But if I did that, I would have gotten 20 years. Let's be honest. I would have gotten Grand Slams taken away from me. You would have heard about it in another multiverse."
Another multiverse. Spider-Man across the multiverse. This is so on brand for Ms. Williams, Ohanian. Serena managed to make this about herself.
She's not wrong.
Right.
She's not wrong at all.
But her comments are so all over the place. Because she's saying, if I had done this, I would have been penalized to the max. They would have removed titles somehow. They would have found a way to put me in prison. And she's right. She was tested more frequently than most players. It's at least in the US. But seems to be lobbying for lenience toward Jannik, but also...
No, it's just self-serving.
Well, yeah.
That's
just all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't think she knows much about the case.
No, and then the pivot to be saying, "Oh my God, I feel so bad for Maria. What she went through."
What? What does that mean?
She says, quote, "Just weirdly and oddly, I can't help but think about Maria all this time. I can't help but feel for her."
Okay.
That Met Gala bathroom is looming large over
what happened?
Tennis going forward and over tennis that we've known to have existed.
I mean, what the hell happened in this bathroom? Because it has caused all parties to re-characterize history that we all saw with our eyes and ears, right? And changing the future of their relationship. Not 3 short years ago. Serena was on a podcast.
Maria was abandoned and alone.
With Zina and Chanda. And Serena was making jokes about her great rival being on drugs the whole time. Mm-hmm. Now, we assume she was talking about Maria, She could have been talking about somebody else. I won't say who. We assume she was talking about Maria, but ever since the Met Gala bathroom come to Jesus moment, things are so different. Why is she saying she feels bad for Maria? I mean, Maria got a much bigger sentence right off the bat, but their cases really bear no similarities.
I think to the onlooker, and in this case, Serena is an onlooker.
Right.
She's not. She's not sifting through the legalese like Chris Eubanks.
Or me.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't know that much about either case, I don't think.
But I think there's a general feeling that the judgments that are being handed down now are far more lenient than during her playing time. I think there's a general sense of that from these players who, in her mind, she was put through the ringer with drug testing. She was put through the ringer her entire career with everything she did and said being called into question and being doubted. She was called a man. She was accused of being on steroids her entire life. And so if she were accused of one of these things, it would have been fulfilling all of those allegations. Right. And so the hammer would have come down that much harder. And also, let's not ever discount race in all of this. And so I can see where a not fully informed Serena looking and talking about this could come away with these ideas specific to her. Right?
Who says, in my day, the hoops we had to jump through and how terrified we were.
Maria missed an email and she gets 2 years.
Right. Iga tests positive. She serves a suspension off season and we don't know about it. Like
Jannik gets a rub down. He gets to choose when he serves his time. He comes to an agreement. I get that. I mean, this is why so many players are railing against anti-doping right now, because without paying full attention to actually what's being said and what happened and what's being written and the rules, these things don't align. They don't make sense.
Right.
They don't make sense at all.
But conversely, today's players are saying that anti-doping is too stringent, is too tough, but the processes in the background are invisible to them, right? They feel unjust.
The Maria thing, though, that pivot, that took me out.
Right. Okay, speaking of anti-doping, John Wertheim got this press release from ITIA. I am tired of not getting these, by the way. I signed up for the ITIA mailing list. Why should John Wertheim get all the press releases to leak?
Why do you think? Why do you think, James?
He's been reporting on tennis for 30 years. Fine.
I get that your part-time gig at 30 Minutes doesn't hold the same prestige as his on 60 Minutes.
30 minutes? Wow, you gave me 30 minutes? That's prestigious. Yeah, he's on 60 Minutes. Fine. However...
You're in Canada. This tennis hour has 22 minutes.
Commentary. Oh, that's clever. Very few people are going to get that reference. Anyway, ITIA released a statement saying that showers are a permissible delay to doping control, but because showering is not a, quote, entitlement, players must stay in full view of the chaperone during their shower. Now, when you read this paragraph several times, I think you'll come away with it saying this is not a change to policy. The wording is insane.
The wording? What?
What they're saying is take your doping test before you take a shower. That's what they're saying.
That's the expectation.
Yes.
But if for some reason you smell like Lois Boisson and you need to shower, allegedly.
Wow.
Allegedly.
Pre-dove.
Then you can go take a shower. But just know, Miss Susie...
I always feel like... somebody's watching me. Yeah, they will be.
They will be watching you. But you know what the reason is here? Because there is speculation or some evidence that athletes go and take a shower and it's very easy to pee in the shower and conceal that you've peed in the shower because the water is running, and that can have an effect on the doping control result.
Really?
I read that. I don't know how entirely true that is, but why? What other reason could there be?
Wow.
Really? What other reason could there be? What could they be doing in the shower? You're not washing away the drugs from your
Somebody
pores.
Could be passing them a cup.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
every breath you take, I'll be watching you.
Every pee you make.
My God.
Somebody from the ITIA is watching you.
It's... but the thing is, like, this is a normal procedure
but they made
anti-doping
it
controls, right?
So perverted.
Yes.
They made it
Yes.
sound so predatory, so voyeuristic, so pornographic.
No.
It sound like trust me,
It was so pornographic that you had people volunteering to be the anti-doping
there
officer.
have been fanfics written and will be written about this stuff, these scenarios. The internet is a wild place.
The press release that launched 1,000 fanfics.
Crazy. And for John Wortham to just present it with no comment, basically.
That's what I'm saying. Give me the press release because I will add commentary.
This is where these things need to be viewed through a homosexual lens. You know?
Right. Queering the, I don't know.
Queering the tennis doping.
No, there's a cultural studies dissertation in there somewhere. Lesia Tsurenko is the other lawsuit that we referenced happening in the Southern District of New York. She's suing the WTA for breach of contract, negligence, and the negligent infliction of emotional distress. Many of you have probably seen her tweets at this big essay about the WTA CEO. This was referring to Steve Simon, not the current CEO, Portia Archer. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's kind of like that meme, good for you, or I'm sorry that happened. Basically, Tsurenko is Ukrainian. She's been fighting with the WTA since the war in Ukraine started about wanting to get any Russians or Belarusians who support the war banned.
The war
from
on
the tour.
Ukraine.
Right.
Yes.
She spoke with Steve Simon about it. She had issues with Veronika Kudermetova because Kudermetova was wearing a shirt promoting Tarneft, which is a Russian oil and gas company which has faced sanctions since the war started. There are other players here and there who've shown some support for their country or alignment with Putin's policies. Some of them are sort of undercover or a little bit subtle, especially because we don't speak Russian.
She describes Sabalenka as, quote, the Barbie doll of Lukashenko.
That is nasty.
Is she wrong?
Well, yeah. Set aside your general dislike for Sabalenka to say that as part of a complaint in
really,
a lawsuit.
This is I'm asking a serious question here.
Right.
I'm being part glib, part serious.
So I'm having trouble separating this from some of the rumors that I've heard. I'm really not trying to be that bitch who's like, oh, I heard this.
Sources told me. Sources tell me.
You can see some of this is on the record. Tsurenko's husband, his name is Mikita Vlasov. He had requested an investigation because of how Steve Simon allegedly talked to Lesia. WTA responded by launching an investigation into Vlasov instead. And now, the things that are not arguable here is that Vlasov did an interview on a podcast where he called Russians not people, quote, just pieces of meat without principles and emotions.
He said of Dasha Kasatkina, quote, Kasatkina was brave enough to declare herself a lesbian, but not brave enough to condemn the war. That is some nasty work.
Absolutely
nasty
sick.
Work.
Because first of all, she did. That's not true. She did condemn the war.
Excuse me? False.
Me? Sorry. False. And also it minimizes her step out of the closet.
Yep.
It minimizes the danger of her potentially returning to her home.
Paints her as a self-serving person who only cares about herself and not her people.
And it says, well, if you're Russian, you don't deserve a sense of home. Or you don't deserve a sense of safety, even if you don't support the war. Apparently, he also said a lot of really profane things about Steve Simon.
What does it tell you when the WTA immediately launches an investigation into him? Given what we know about coaches and would-be spouses, potential rumored spouses on the WTA.
Yeah.
As far as I know, the WTA doesn't just launch investigations into these people willy-nilly.
Right.
It comes from complaints from other people, which is what we saw with Rybakina and Vukov.
Yeah. So the rumors that I'm referring to are Vlasov's actions around the tour with other players that I assume prompted the investigation.
How he moves through the tour, how he interacts with people, how he treats people. And if we are to make assumptions based on the things he said in this podcast interview, then we might be warranted to lean that way.
It just doesn't look good, right? And to be clear, Tsurenko is not her husband.
She is not, but she's also a person who has retired from matches more than anybody else in the history of tennis.
Yeah.
And so that, while possibly unfair to her, does not give her the best footing to then command people's ears in this situation.
Yeah, I mean...
Maybe that's incredibly unkind to her.
The thing is, I think you can forgive... your country is under attack. You can forgive people for acting out of character, acting illogically, or impassionedly, right? But I don't think it's grounds for a lawsuit. I think we kind of know what happened behind the scenes. She said, I want any Russian or Belarusian player who supported the war effort out of tennis. I don't want them to be able to play. And what Steve Simon said behind closed doors is, we can't do that. We're not going to do that. And she wasn't happy with it.
And then we have the specter of yet another man, puppeteering, behind the scenes, making his name, collecting coin off the back and the work of a woman.
Who, his wife?
Yes.
Oh. The WTA responded officially, and they said they expect this to be dismissed. They're not really spending a lot of time on the PR aspect of this lawsuit. I just want to mention one more thing that I found interesting in the reporting. The WTA has a waiver of recourse clause, players, which prevents players from suing the organization. And this was actually mentioned in the PTPA's antitrust lawsuit as well, that players are not empowered to sue the tours for any reason. Now that, to me, is...
fucked up.
As well as not a legal expert, that feels like something that could be struck down, right? And Tsurenko, her lawyers, feel that this is unenforceable because this is, in this instance, it's unconscionable legally.
It sounds like when you go to a sporting event or a music concert and there's all the fine print that says, if a crane falls on your head and you get crushed to death, we bear no legal responsibility.
Right.
You know, like,
and because you bought the ticket, you implicitly
Exactly.
agreed to these. And because players have to sign this agreement to be part of the WTA, you've agreed to not sue them for anything. Is that enforceable? I don't know.
I should hope it's not.
Right.
If there are legitimate gripes that a player has against the tour, they should be able to take recourse.
Right. But as we said in Vibes Cartel, players, because they're independent contractors, they do not have the protections of the Civil Rights Act. They don't have protections from anti-discrimination laws. They're not employees
in the
United States. Yeah.
Where are you going to sue? Like this is the inherent problem with tennis.
But I don't know of any country where tennis players of the WTA are employees.
Back to the Sabalenka thing, though. The Barbie doll of Lukashenko. We cannot overlook that was handled piss poorly on her part.
Yeah.
It was terrible. There was always a deft touch that could have been deployed that she's only just now deploying in her game. Some variety and some deft touch. Some drop shots.
Her game has a lot more finesse than her personality.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which is why taking out the phone to take the picture of the thing just didn't hit.
It didn't
resonate the way it would if another player did it.
Right.
Because to my mind, what I've witnessed from her is 97.62% self-serving behavior.
No, I mean, her personality, typically, when faced with a public relations dilemma, she often chooses the wrong approach.
Or just in general.
Yeah.
Like, you win a great match and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry to keep you from watching the real entertainment, the men that's coming later.
Yeah.
Like...
The Barbie doll of Lukashenko thing, I think, is really out of bounds. We've talked about this before and tried to make sense of it, and neither of us understand what it is like to be from a country that's an autocracy or a dictatorship or is at war, right? We're very privileged not to understand those things.
You may be understanding very soon.
Right. But at the moment, we've criticized Sabalenka's movements before. People criticized us for it, right? And said we don't get it. Fair. Totally fair. I am at a place where I don't really have strong feelings about it. I think because I recognize that I don't understand.
I just think that there were ways to have dealt with it that could have avoided all of this that were ignored. That were not chosen. And so given that was the case repeatedly, that makes me... It's not that I have evidence, but when you get these these feelings over and over and over again about how somebody reacts to something, you're like, well, and it keeps happening, then you're like, well, I have to make my own conclusions.
Right. You remember when she used to go in for handshakes repeatedly?
Yes.
When everybody
Yes.
knew
Absolutely.
that Ukrainian players weren't going to shake her hand.
Yeah.
So, like, it was a spectacle each time.
You're a top player.
Yeah.
You beat them. Acknowledge
Just respect it
or
and-
not acknowledge the
Yeah.
moment and move on. But the Barbie doll part really is actually clever here. Because I've said this before, Sabalenka wants to be a sex pot.
Yeah, and that's fine.
And that's
like,
fine. That's totally fine.
You know, and she does it up in her photo shoots after she wins tournaments, and it's a kiki, like, it's cute.
That's what that's playing on right there.
I think they are.
Like, that's
exploiting
what
that.
she's most concerned with rather than things that actually affect people's lives. I think that's what
Right.
that's getting at.
But to put that in a complaint for people to read, to me, that's really out
it
of
makes you
bounds.
seem
It
unserious.
sounds petty.
It makes you seem unserious.
And if you believe the rumors, like, Sabalenka has gotten the business behind the scenes, right? You saw her on Match Point in tears a lot of times, actually.
Well, that one was for the Netflix camera.
No, not that one. Not match related. You know what I'm talking about. You know, we'll criticize her movements, but I do think she has actually taken the flack that Tsurenko says she hasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I just outed myself on the podcast.
As what? A hater?
A hater.
Well, I don't really think that's a huge revelation to the people.
I feel like I'm a lot more guarded than you are when it comes to these things lately.
Oh, what? I told you I was reckless of mouth, like Riley Opelka, but I don't lie.
It's just
That's
where
the difference.
It's just where I am. It's where I am.
Shelly Ann Fraser Price. So many of you sent us this video. Thank you so much.
Listen, our brand is strong.
Right.
Because we've never been sent something more than we
Right.
have with this
Like,
one video.
You know what we like. Shelly Ann has a little boy in primary school.
Zion.
And that's Lauryn Hill's first son's name.
Yeah.
The song, track 4 on Miseducation.
Oh, you have to let people know that you know the track number.
I wore that CD out in whatever grade. Shelly Ann participates in, Parents' Day?
No,
They have
it's-
like a field day?
It's sports day.
Oh, okay.
It's sports day. Every Jamaican school has it. And we didn't have a parents' race in my high school, but we had a teacher's race.
Oh, okay.
But at Zion School, they have a parents' race. And Miss Shelly, she's going to run.
Takes it very
because
seriously.
what?
Because
And why?
if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
And she's a parent, and it's a race. She qualifies.
No matter that she's one of the sprinting goats.
And so you have her running this race. She is doing her pre-professional race warm-up. And you have these women who are in great shape running behind her.
yeah.
Some of these women look fit as a fiddle, great form.
Well, and
great,
sprinting is super serious in Jamaica.
great form. I mean, these women who were left 50 meters behind, they were running like this was
That's
their
like
former
superhuman.
life. You know, like they were doing the business. But there she shot from a rocket. And she ran, and she ran, and she ran.
Shelly
And
Ann has not retired, by the way.
there was a gold medal on offer, and she got it.
Why do you think she won the world championships 5 times?
This is the second time she's won this race.
Does this go on the Wikipedia?
2-time Zion Sports Day Mommy Race champion.
Elsewhere, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention this, but Asafa Powell's son races at a school you attended.
I did not know that.
This is crazy. Like,
I watched the
Yeah.
video and I didn't even know that.
I mean, that little boy cleared the field.
I mean,
Right? Asafa is a former world record holder in the 100 meter.
I won a medal in a 3-legged race in my sports day that I never got the medal for.
Oh,
I was robbed. I mean, that is not an easy race to win. You have to get in rhythm with your partner. You know? And so I still resent that to this day. Because I was not fast enough to be winning these 100-meter dashes.
oh, okay.
Well, the equivalent of when you're
on the grass.
when you're in primary or prep school, you know. I'm still bitter about it.
Another tennis connection, Rory McIlroy won his first Masters last week. I stayed home on Sunday to watch this thing. I was really engaged.
Because you go and watch films by yourself on Sundays.
Yeah, did I see a movie that day?
You did not. Well, actually, you did.
Wait, what did I see?
You were out of the house, but I don't know if you watched a movie that day.
Anyway, I came back
came
to
back.
watch the Masters. A one-hole playoff
Yes.
with
Sudden
Justin Rose.
death. Mm-hmm.
I like Rory. I've always liked Rory. I like Irish people in general. I'm going to support them.
Because you are what?
Irish American,
Half Irish.
right? I'm not going to say I'm Irish. Irish American.
Okay. Caroline was there. Did you know that? At the start of the tournament? I don't know if she stayed through the end of the tournament, but her and David Lee were at the Masters.
I can't tell if you're joking.
I'm being serious. They were at the Masters.
Oh, Caroline, as you know,
She plays
as
golf.
you may know, was a victim of last-minute dumping via text, thanks to Rory McIlroy.
The invitations to the wedding had
Yeah.
already been sent out.
Not only were they engaged, they were very, very close to being married.
And
Apparently, they haven't spoken since the text.
the act of sending the invites brought this moment of clarity for Mr. McIlroy that this was not my life going forward. And so I held that against him for a long time.
Oh,
I mean, I was never even...
The tennis girlies hate him for that.
I was never even a big Ms. Wozniacki Esquire
Right,
fan to
right.
begin with, but I did not like that. And so it's taken me many, many, many years and many, many, many years of Rory choking to come around to being able to support him.
I mean, you do love a choker.
I do.
Let's be honest.
Most of my faves.
You loved Greg Norman.
I did.
You loved...
Ja-
I hate
May
to
she
say
rest
it,
in
but
peace.
yes, Yana Novotna.
Yep.
Yeah.
I empathized. Well, no, because I never choked in that way in my own life. I
Oh.
sympathized
Oh, excuse me.
with the plight of that scenario. It endeared me to these athletes. But yeah, it was a lot of fun because Rory choked a lot on that Sunday. Choked right from the jump, right out the gate, double
There were
bogey.
so many opportunities for somebody else to take it.
Up by 2 to start the round, down by 1 after 3 holes. And then you have Bryson looking like he's
I was
got this.
just gonna mention.
And there is no greater sight in golf or any professional sport than Bryson DeChambeau choking in golf. Like, that shit will always give me life. I will love it down.
Because he even made a joke to Rory earlier in the tournament, right? Saying, referencing Rory choking to Bryson
At the US Open.
last year.
Yeah, and Rory was like, I can't wait to get my revenge for what you did to me. And he said, bro, you did that to yourself.
That's nasty. That is nasty work. And God said, he said, no more Bryson double bogey.
Double bogey.
Oh.
Followed by bogey. Followed by bogey. That was one of the more enjoyable golf majors that I've watched in a long time. And it's only been since last year that I've been able to watch these final rounds again because I no longer work Sundays. But I spent a lot of my youth into my adulthood watching all these golf tournaments.
My grandparents always had it on. They had a little 13-inch TV in the kitchen. So even during dinner, it had to be on for all the majors.
But also fuck the Masters.
Yeah. And their little jingle. I'm not a fan.
The jingler died last year.
So I'm obligated to like the song.
This brings us to the end of episode 378. My name is Jonathan. You can find me on Blue Sky at Tennis John.
I'm James at ElliotJMR.
2 L's, 2 T's. Everything BodyServe related can be found on linktree.com/thebodyserve. If you're looking for back episodes of the show that have been removed from various platforms.
It's thebodyserve.podbean.com,
There
which
it
you
is.
totally fucked up before.
I did. Endearingly.
Yeah. And we are working to get the other episodes restored on Spotify.
Thanks for listening.
Till next time.
Thank you very much.